Hey everyone, and welcome back. This is Josh with the SPM, the Construction CFO, and today I want to show you how we use the cost codes we established in the last video and how to think about them into our estimate so that way we have real-time feedback on how we are actually performing on a job versus what we estimated. So on my screen you can see this is very similar to what we talked about last time. This is going to be an example of a civil contractor that does a little bit of everything from all the dirt work to the utilities to even concrete and asphalt. They do it all themselves. Um, this is a template that we've created for several clients. This just happens to be one of them. It's a nameless, faceless one, and we've changed some of the numbers so that way it doesn't give away any proprietary information to um, hurt anybody if they're in the same market. So we're going to start off though by looking at the budget. You can tell that we have the same big buckets we had before with materials, subcontractors, equipment, labor, and we have all the other ones in there. And what we're going to do is then align each dollar that we put in our estimate to something on this cost code sheet. And if we don't know what it exactly goes to, we're going to put it toward the miscellaneous version, whether that's miscellaneous materials, miscellaneous subcontractors, etc. So we're going to start by going through each tab, and then we're going to end up at the estimate total tab, so you can kind of see how it works. So we start off by thinking about estimating as quantities, right? We're going to have material and we're going to have labor. We're going to get to equipment at the end. I'm going to explain why when we get to the equipment tab. But for now, just think this tab for erosion control. This is 100% what it costs to do the work and buy the materials to do the work. It doesn't have anything to do with supervision, overhead, equipment, fuel, anything. So we're going to say we have 1,500 foot of silt fence. We're going to say it's $1.50 per unit price. It automatically calculates our silt fence cost, and it gives us taxes, and our hourly rate can be adjusted in one spot on our estimate tab. I like to have it in one place so you don't accidentally change it on a couple pages and then forget it when you're doing prevailing wage. If you have one spot, it makes it easy. So it automatically calculates. Say that I can only buy 2,000 foot. I can only buy two 1,000 foot rolls. Well, I'm going to have 25% waste, for example. So I can either put in 1,500 or I can put markup and waste. However I want to do it. This could also be, maybe I have 10 runs of 15 foot and then the rest of it is like one long stretch for whatever reason. So markup and waste is not profit. It is specifically for waste on a job. We're going to skip over the rest of them. They're very generic. There's a lot more to get to in this whole thing. But when we come down to the labor, we've established that for this crew, they can install about 200 linear foot per hour. So if we have 1,500 foot divided by 1,500, that gives us 7.5 hours, which is $337.50 at $45 an hour. Again, we can do markup. We could say, think of this as the difficulty. We have to go to the back of a section. We're on a really steep slope and we're half as effective as we want to be. We can add 25% time to it and it will adjust the dollars. It's not adjusting the hours. It's just going to adjust the dollars. And then everything at the bottom gets sent back to the budget, which we'll see at the end. And the erosion sale price goes into the estimate tab, so we can do a breakdown for the GC if we want to. Next we go to demolition and clearing. This one is a little bit more unique. I'm going to expand this a little bit so you can see the whole screen. So we think of this as a large area. This isn't going to be per unit. This is hours per unit. So it's not how many units can I get done in an hour, how many linear feet in 1 hour. It's how many hours does it take to do 1 acre, 1 linear foot, if you were thinking about it the other way. So we have a difficulty modifier over here. If you think about One difficulty, it takes 6 hours to do an acre. Maybe it's just mowing, and I have 3 guys out there on mowers, and I just have to mow this giant acre. It takes about an hour or 2 hours for all 3 of them. That's what it would look like. Versus I get down to like 123 an hour per acre for, we'll say 15 acres. And that's because it's very hilly. There's giant trees that require a little finesse. Um, and the way that this subcontractor thinks about clearing, we have a 3-person crew. We have them do 10-hour days. So if we look at, this is how many hours it was going to calculate in at that price. We have how many days it'll be divided by 10 hours. That's how many days of one person. So now we have 3. So it's going to take us 62 and a half days to do 15 acres at how difficult this project is. Now that's quite a bit. That's like the extreme end, but just for example. And then we can get in here to tax and markup. We can say, hey, it's going to take an extra 10% because there's security or something like that. Again, that gets moved to the labor section on the other page. We're going to go to the next page and do excavation and haul off. Similar to the erosion control, we're thinking about how many, maybe at the top. We have material. We're going to say we have 10,000 foot of cut. It's $1.60. Maybe that's what it costs you to dump it. That's kind of what that dollar price would be. But if you're just going to cut it and throw it next to the, like in the same property, and it's not going to cost you anything, maybe you don't have to have anything there. Because we are going to have trucking later on, and you're going to see it on this one, actually. Again, our total cost, we have tax, we can do markup in case, it's going to be over a 3-year period. Maybe they're going to charge us $1.70 and $1.80 because they go up 10 cents a year. Whatever that looks like. Say we're going to have 5,000 cubic yards of fill dirt at, we'll say 350. You got a deal on it. You can see this is only the material. Now, it automatically comes down again. Same concept. We have a scale. If I'm going to cut, how many units can I get done per hour? That's backwards. So it's going to take me, for 50 cubic yards of cut, that's going to be an hour. So if I take 10,000 divided by 50, that's going to be 200 hours. 200 hours times 45 gives me $9,000. Say that I can get it done. It's only half as fast, right? I can only do 25 cubic yards of cut because of how steep it is, or it's in the back of the section, or I'm using a really tiny excavator because that's what I got instead of I have a mini X instead of a full size. Then I can change that. I can adjust them. But it automatically populates and it tells us hours, which is super important. Again, we can also do markup. We can do aggregate. This is the final grading. The top one was for excavation. So now we're going to be doing the building pad. We're going to say we have 500 tons of 57 stone. Aggregate 1 inch minus is how they call it there. Call it whatever you want. But again, we can have waste. Say it's like a concrete thing. We know there's 10% waste or 5%. We can put that kind of thing in there. Populates everything. Then we come down here. It gives us the aggregate minus we can put in 12 tons per hour. So I can say we can do 24, maybe it's faster. Or we can just say it's 12, it's 41 hours. And then with this contractor, they actually do their own haul off and trucking. So we've figured out how much it costs for a truck driver, how much fuel it should cost, and how much is left over if we know that the average in the area is $119 for a trucking in the area. In your area, that might be 105. And if you can lock in, say, your labor and your fuel, because you know your fuel burn in your vehicle, then you're going to be able to figure that out. And it automatically calculates labor hours based on how much there is coming in and out for fuel. And that all gets tied back to different areas. We'll get to that at the end. So we're going to go to storm sewer. We have the same concept. You can do this to be a, a bulk buy. Say I'm going to have inlet boxes. I'm just going to have one giant package of all the concrete structures. I can say one, this size, but then I have to change how long it's going to take me to do all the hours. So I like to break it out so you can identify how long, and then you'll see we have a 1% for miscellaneous materials. And some people don't do this. Some people want to track every single thing individually, but for me, when we're doing concrete pipe or manholes or whatever it is, we're always going to have chairs for pipe. We're going to have mastic to tie it together. We're going to have PVC glue. We're going to have nails to put a form together, for example, if we're going to pour concrete on it. So there's always miscellaneous things, and if you just put in 1 to 5%, depending on how dense the work is that you're doing, that's what I do. I'm not going to fill out this one as an example. I just wanted to show you. And then miscellaneous material, it takes us a little bit of time. Say we can do fittings, we can do those in 2 minutes or 1 minute. So it helps us cover it all. Now we're going to go to the water utilities, same concept. I'm going to skip over that one. Sanitary sewer, concrete, these are all the same. And you'll notice the miscellaneous materials on concrete, 15% if we know we're going to do small pours and we know we have to, maybe you have a cubic yard minimum of 5 cubic yards, you can do it that way. Or maybe we just know that there's a lot of slop, or because of the sand, the soil that we're digging in, we know that there's going to be extra versus in a really rocky area or even good dirt, you're not going to have as much cave in, so it's going to be cleaner and it's not going to have extra volume to fill. Just thoughts that I've learned over the year. Milling, we look at this one about the same as your demo and clearing. We want to look at it as like how many square yards and how many hours per square yard does it take us. And we can look and see the crew size, and we can see all of that. And then we have a price check over here, price per square yard. You typically know how much something should cost in general in the area. And so it helps you be able to see, like, am I way off base or am I close? But those are all the basics, right? And we have a landscaping. But say we're going to get into equipment now. This is where things shift. We don't want to think about equipment as per day something's on site. The two mistakes I see are people say it's $650 a day for this excavator, and that includes its fuel, its insurance, mobilization, and the guy to run it. But if you run it for 4 hours, you make a lot of money. If you run it for 12 hours, you make a lot less. You make it costs 3 times as much. So what we really want to do is break it down so we can track it. We want to say, we're going to start with crew trucks. We're going to say we're going to have 2 crew trucks. We're going to have it there for, it's going to be a 1.5 month project. But when you're talking about rentals, and if you've ever rented from United or anybody else, you know that 4 weeks is a month. So really there's 13 months in a year. So if I'm doing a 6-week project, I'm going to put 1 month, 2 weeks. I could change this to 4 weeks. To help people understand it better, but not for this video, I guess. We're going to put in here, there's no mobilization, but here's our monthly rate, $2,300 for us to have a crew truck. And that's not just a lease. You want to have in there your insurance and just wear and tear. You have to know how to calculate this. And I'm going to make another video after this one that's going to go through how you can figure out what does your vehicles that you own actually cost you the duration that you own them. So you know how much to ask for. We're going to say we burn 1 fuel an hour. We use it, we're going to say 6 hours a day. We have 2 hours there, 2 hours home, and it runs for 2 hours during the day just because people sit in it and mess with it. We go to the end, it calculates everything, and you can see here at the end also, we have $3.55 a gallon. You can change that if you want. That's just kind of a standard that I've found works. But you can also change it as it fluctuates. We're going to say we have a PM truck in there. They're going to be there maybe 3 times. So we're going to put 3-day rate on there. We have a mid-size excavator. it's going to be there for 3 weeks. We're going to have a skid steer. It's going to be there for 6 weeks. We're going to put 2 and 1. And actually, as I fill this out, 3 weeks, it becomes cheaper to say it's a month. So anything over 2.5 weeks, it's cheaper to charge a month rate. And that's the way that I have this set up. That's the way rental companies have it set up. So that way they make more money. And it kind of protects you in case you go past that extra week. It sits there and doesn't get used. We're going to say we have a gooseneck trailer to move all this stuff. There's that's 1 day. I'm actually going to have it out there for 2 months, 2 full months, because we're going to have mobilization there and back. It's going to sit around. It's going to move steel plates. It's going to have different things on it. We're just going to have it on site. But trailers, even if they're paid off, they're not free. You still have to replace the boards, refinish them. You have to fix the electrical if that goes wrong. You have to do license and registration. You have insurance. You have brakes. You have tires. You have, everything. The bearings inside of them. There's so much that goes into it. You need to have a little pool of money that adds up to pay for all the ancillary things. It's not just a free trailer until it breaks and you buy a new one. That's my soapbox. I will stop with that. We're not going to do any more. I just want to leave it as is for now. But you'll see that I have a mobilization cost. Some of these, if you get into a big excavator, it might have a $2,700 mobilization because you have to get a permit and have the oversized load and actually get it, take a whole day to do it. But this mobilization is not for setting up site. We're going to get to that in a second. This is only for that vehicle. So it's a very separate bucket. But as we scroll over, you can see that all of these numbers get added up into certain places. But at the end of the day, it all totals up to about $23,000 for this project. And I can double check. I just kind of made up numbers, but if I wanted to look back, I could say, hey, I'm doing a 6-week project. If I go look back at my beginning, I can see, I had 62 days. Technically, I don't even have enough stuff out there, but it helps you have a double check to remember. Next, we get into subcontractors. Say that I have different bids for subcontractors. The way this is designed is to just tell you the lowest bid. So I have 10,000, I have 15,000. Say I get one at the last minute for 7,500, it automatically moves it over. And then the markup is not money like profit. It is how much money it's going to cost you to manage that contract. So you still have to receive their invoices. You still have to process their invoices. You still have to write them a check. You still have to call them and make sure that they're going to site. You have to invite them to sub meetings. You have to coordinate with them. There's a lot of work that's not attributed anywhere else on here. Remember, everything we've done so far has been how much work does it take to do that task. There's no foreman time. There's no oversight. There's no anything like that. Same with the subcontractor. So then we get to, we're going to just leave the rest. We're going to go to the direct job costs at the very end. This is direct job expenses, direct job costs, whatever you want to call it. DJE. This is where we think about the aspects of a contract that cost money, but we can't bill for. We can't just bill for a foreman on site. We can't just bill for safety because there's not a specific thing that the owner is receiving for it. But we know we have to have a foreman there to lay out and to coordinate and to call in inspections and permits and go to safety meetings and all of that, subcontractor meetings, to coordinate the job. So we have 10% of all of the man hours. That estimate total F8 is all of the man hours on the job. 10%, $60 an hour, for example, just gives you a bucket of $14,000 to pay a guy only to plan and do that kind of thing. Then you have project manager time. That is 20% of your foreman time or your super time or the combination of the two. And what I get approached with a lot when I get to this stage and we start talking about safety and project manager is I can't increase my price by $7,000 and get this job. Nobody, I'm already competitive. I'm already overpriced. I'm already not the low guy. And that's up to you. If you, two thoughts on that. If you ever want to grow to the next level, you're going to have a project manager. So if you never put money in there to get a project manager, you're never going to go to the next level. Somebody's just going to have to absorb the work because you're already doing it. You're probably the owner. You're probably already doing the project management and safety yourself, and you're working 80 hours a week doing it, but you don't have any money to hire anybody because you're not charging money to do it like every other company would. That doesn't mean that we're just increasing it by $7,000. What it means is we realize that there's a cost here, and we're going to have to back off of our typical overhead and profit a little bit to stay competitive, but knowing that that money is actually a cost. It's not going to just go to a lump sum bucket so we have nice looking gross margins. We want to know exactly what our gross margin is, or we can't even manage a company. So moving down here, we have safety. Again, that's about 10% of all of your foreman superintendent time. Think of doing your STS sheets, safety meetings in the mornings, things like that. You might even have to get a safety guy for your job. That number could go up to 20, 30%, depending on if it's a national GC that requires it. Per diem, say we have 15 months or 15 days worth of per diem. I say months at the top, but think of per diem as a daily rate. We're going to say maybe it's $105 for food for everybody per day. Travel expenses, we're going to say there's 30 days. We're going to have $150 for a hotel room. That's $4,500. Now, I'm going to expand this for other contractors as we grow. But the way I would like to look at this is how many days, how many people, and what's the monthly cost or the daily cost. Because when I say 30 months, that's kind of deceiving for there. And I want it to be obvious. We want to build a system that anybody can come in and plug in numbers and use their brain to figure out, not a hidden network of numbers that nobody can actually use except for one person. That's not how you scale a business. Now we get to mobilization expenses. This is things like how many people is it going to take me to send to a job site to actually set up the job site, to receive the Connex, to go to safety trainings or orientation trainings is probably a better way to say it. Subcontractor meetings, and just laying out the job, meeting the surveyor, walking the job, those kind of things. So we're going to say, I'm going to put an equation here. It's 3 people times 10 hours times 2 days. That's 60 hours. Normally, if you don't include this, you're just absorbing that $2,700 in your overhead, and you're never able to account for it. So for those who say, I'm just adding more money and we're never going to win jobs this way, well, if you can't win a job with how much it costs you to do the work, then you're probably not going to be in business anyway next time you watch one of these videos. Job storage, Connexes, we're going to have one out there for, I'm going to say 2 months, $150. Tech and phone, we're going to have 4 people with phones for 2 months. So that's 8 technically, and we're going to say $488 a month. Actually, that's per day, so we're going to do equals 30 times 488 there. So you have a phone allowance, legal. If it's your first time working with somebody, you might put in $800 to review the contract. That way you're going to recoup some of the stuff. Otherwise, again, it's just going to come out of your overhead. But that's this tab. Now we're going to go finish it all up. We're going to look at 2 areas. We're going to start with your estimate total. So bear with me one second. I have a circular loop in here because this is a working spreadsheet I haven't finished. So we have our erosion control. We have all of our demo, excavation, all of these numbers pull through, and it gives us our total bid price, and it gives us our bond price. This is the cost. If you add up all of these, this is the cost to build the project. Now, that's $241,000, but that's not what it costs us. That's just what it will cost us to do the work. But then there's other things that aren't in there. You know, we have small tools, hard hats, vests, gloves, safety glasses, drill bits, things like that. Ancillary things, It's about 1% of your total labor. So $110,000, you add $1,100, that'll cover you. Sometimes it's 0.5%, sometimes it's 1%. So we just leave it a standard of 1. Employee benefits, think of that as like a job site bonus. You could put that as a 0, or if you're going to do profit sharing, this is where you would put something in there. And the most important one, financing costs. Right now it calculates to be 1.33%. The way it's calculated is we know our annual rate for our line of credit is 10.8%. That is an average. If it's 365 days, it's going to be 0.03%. We know that this GC takes 45 days, maybe there's 60 days. You can see that that changes the number over here. This is the one that people have a lot of heartburn with too. Like, I can't increase my price by 2% or $4,300 or whatever. And it's like, well, that's going to come straight out of your profit then. And if you look at the bottom here, this 5%, if out of $12,000, if you're spending 5 of it on financing the job for somebody else, and that's 60 days, like that's pretty standard in the entire industry, you're only left with 3%. So that's not a lot of room for error. If you do a $300,000 job and you win, you do 3%, and you might make $8,000. Like, that's not, I don't know if that's worth it, but that's up to you. That's how we want to look at all of this. And we want to match our overhead to the cash flow forecast when you calculate your overhead amount. And we're watching this every month. We want to see what our SG&A is. That's going to be your overhead. Whatever that percentage is over a 12-month rolling span, we want to put in here. If we think about why, we have change orders that hold us to 10% overhead, 5% profit. When we're estimating, we can put whatever we want. We can put 500% overhead just because we want to. And if we win the job, cool, they signed up for it. But when it comes to a change order, if I have a 500% overhead or an 18% overhead, I am eating the cost to do that change order. So it helps to know it. It helps to job cost everything. So your overhead is somewhere between 7 to 13%. That is industry average. That's what you should strive for. Anything higher than 13%, as you can tell here, when I stack 10 and 5, my gross profit's 13%. So anything more than that, I am losing money every single time I do a change order. And with that, this is how you do estimating. Now, the way that ties back, like I said, all of these numbers tie back into the original budget on our budget sheet. So I know on the whole job, I had $40,000 for rock that I need to go write a purchase order to Vulcan. And we can start to track how we are trending every single month and have a variance. And what that allows us to do is see, do we have red flags or are we doing okay? And with that, if you guys have any questions or want to see anything else, leave a note. I'm happy to make another video. The next one for sure for me is going to be how you determine owned equipment cost.